And versus Hey, it's Tony from the Bronx. Now, something to say. Tony from the Bronx. Ooh, I should probably tell him. Sorry, just notifying the team of what it is they're actually facing. Last time, I feel like this Tony from the Bronx actually played KFC into RLD and did quite well. So this is an interesting change coming out from Tony from the Bronx. Let's see.
Well, they last week they played KFC and they lost. I mean, they won the first time they ever played them. They won, but the RLD played a lot better the next week, and they were actually able to defeat the KFC of Suppatease, Tony, and Lossa. So I think they're switching it up this week. Well, obviously they're switching it up this week. They're going to be playing that enhancement Shaman instead. Nessper going to go ahead and sap up Tony Jr. Suppatease just going to be sitting in stealth. He knows that Nessper wants to open up onto him, so he's going to delay it as much as possible, just sitting in Egypt, in cat form, in stealth, finally going to come out, using that Iron Bark onto Tony Jr., sitting at the pillar, throwing out those hots, trying to stabilize his team. Nessper using that Adrenaline Rush. The fear coming out early from Lossa onto Pinkrangers and Pugmans. Pinkrangerz is going to save his trinket. He knows his team is going to be completely fine at the moment. And I think, unless this RLD can somehow get a kill onto Suppatease, this is going to end up being a very long game.
Yeah, absolutely. The blind goes out onto Suppatease, but the pressure is just not there for the RLD just yet. But there's the full sap out of it. Something might be able to be done from this RLD out of that. There's the cheap shot, the kidney shot actually on the Suppatease. They want to go onto him, but that Storm Bolt onto Nessper is going to make give it that breathing room to Suppatease to hop into bear form to avoid that swap. But Lossa now taking a bit of pressure. I mean, this is going to be a very gradual game, Turbo versus RLD. And I'm not sure. I mean, Tony Jr. is very, very good at off-healing Suppa and everything like that, but Pugman looks like is going to be the kill target for this Turbo. And I haven't really checked, but is Pugman using the Observer this game? He is. It's actually attacking Suppatease, keeping him in combat. So that might be a valid swappable target for this Turbo to really give Suppa a whole bunch more breathing room to stop that. But there's the full kidney shot onto Suppatease. The Mass Butterfly coming out from Lossa to try to stop the follow-up damage. Suppatease comes out of the kidney shot. He's still okay. He has Bark Skin, Iron Bark, Nature Swiftness, everything available, and he's just not pressing anything. He doesn't feel the need to just yet.
Yeah, he's not too scared yet until Nessper starts using some of his cooldowns. He's going to be completely fine. I mean, he doesn't even have dots up at the moment. He's going to use that Vigil, finally getting loaded up by dots from Pugman. The full kidney shot onto Suppatease. He might Barkskin this, but Tony Jr. just spamming out those heals, probably telling Suppatease he's A-OK. Finally getting dip dangerously low. Going to use that Barkskin to try to stabilize his HP a little bit, but this RLD is going to slowly work through the cooldowns of this Turbo Cleave, like you said. And really, this Turbo Cleave at the moment isn't able to get anything going on this RLD. Everyone has every cooldown available to them. The full Stormbolt going out onto Pinkrangers, though. The Hex trying to be cast out by Tony Jr., but he is going to deny that. Pugman taking a little bit of damage at the moment, but Pinkrangers throwing out the strengths, going to be able to top him off. Suppatease actually getting swapped to. There's the red buff killing spree coming out of Nessper. Suppatease had to trinket that, use the Iron Bark on himself, and he's going to be fine with that, but now he's in a position where he has no trinket and no Barkskin for another 20 seconds. They might be able to capitalize on that and potentially kill Suppatease.
It looks like they do need to do something like that. Looking at Pinkranger's mana going up against an enhancement Shaman, it is suffering. 47% versus Suppatease is 82%. So they're definitely going to have to set up a kill, I feel, if they want to land a kill. But Suppatease is going to be the kill target for Nessper, it would seem. But this Turbo doing a really great job just peeling for Suppa and healing for Suppa when those swaps occur. Pinkrangers now sitting in that full Hex. Nessper into that Storm Bolt dipping down. He's actually going to get cloned up at a relatively low health, and that's going to force the trinket from Nessper. But Pinkrangers actually going for a drink. This is really, really important if he gets this drink off, but his team is taking a whole bunch of damage right now. The Howl goes out, the kidney shot onto Suppatease. He is in human form. He's not going to use that Barkskin just yet. He feels confident that he's okay, and Pinkrangers actually drank the full.
Yeah, he drank the full, and in response, he used that Nature's Vigil, used all of his Trents, and he's going to be able to easily top off his team with that. Now Suppatease in a little bit of trouble using that Iron Bark on himself, catching a huge NS. That is his Vigil as well, so both Druids have their Nature's Vigil up, which is going to empower their Hots at the moment. It's going to fall off. Suppatease's healing is going to dip down a little bit. He has no Iron Bark for himself. He still has Barkskin available. Going to have Trinket in around 35 seconds, but like we said, they're just going to be looking to capitalize on Suppatease not using cooldowns properly, overusing cooldowns, and hopefully eventually killing him if they can. Pugman's still the target of choice for this Turbo Cleave, dipping down to 44% HP. Pinkrangers really doesn't have too much to pick him off. He's going to pull back, throw out a couple Trents, and try to get off those casts onto Pugman, but his HP is just getting dipped lower and lower and lower. Pinkrangers having a really hard time topping him off. The regen coming up from Pugman, and now Pinkrangers caught into that full stun by Lossa. They're not going to have any follow-up CC for that. He's still just going to sit max range, throw out those heals on a Pugman. He's going to be able to top him off, and this RLD is stabilized.
Yeah, during that, Supa actually went and got a drink off as well. But something to note is I feel like Pugman, every now and then, he isn't capable of getting full dots onto everybody from the peels of this turbo. But, whoa, Supatease actually dropping down to 60% health here. He's going to sit in that bear form. He's going to be completely fine out of that. Nessper actually using that Cloak of Shadows as well. And now dampening is starting to take effect at this point. Full Hex actually lands onto Pinkrangers, and Pugman is going to port away. He's going to go ahead and fully howl Supatease. As Supatease is going to get broken out of that, he's going to get kidney shot, and he's going to trinket and go straight into bear form, as Nessper does have that red buff out. But Pugman's dipping lower and lower at 30% healthier. The Nature Swiftness being forced by Pinkrangers. Nessper being put into that bash. He has to trinket, goes into a full clone. Right now, Pugman is alone, and Pinkrangers is forced to trinket, get that Iron Bark out, but he's still dipping lower and lower. The offensive clone coming out from Supatease, keeping Pugman at a low health, and only 3 seconds left of that Iron Bark because of it.
Yeah, now Pugman in a lot of trouble, actually. He's across the map from Pinkrangers. He needs to reconnect. Down to 20% HP. He's actually almost in execute range. If Lossa can connect to him, he's in big trouble. He uses that Hellstone. Going to get a big heal from that. Pinkrangers doing everything he can to try to top off Pugman, pardon me. Pugman actually getting locked out there. But this this Turbo Cleave has all the pressure dampening, kicking in a little bit ago at 7% at the moment. Healing is going to be getting worse and worse as the match progresses. Pinkrangers throwing out some Trents, trying to stabilize on healing, but he's having such a hard time. The Enhancement Shaman able to purge off the hot. Supatease pushing in, actually getting the full bash clone onto Pinkrangers, and this could be Pugman's life, using that gateway to get away as well as the sprint. He's going to buy himself some time for now. Pinkrangers going to be able to reconnect and give him some hots. Well done by Pugman using that gateway. That was imperative for him living. Pinkrangers still has no trinket available for another 50 seconds. If they can get the Stormbolt Hex onto him, he could be in a lot of trouble. Supatease getting swapped to, using the Iron Bark on himself. Tony Jr. taking a little bit of damage. Nessper trying to turn it around. Pugman as well. They just need to get this Turbo Cleave off their back. They're kind of on the back foot at the moment. Finally, Pugman HP is going to stabilize. If we look at cooldown, Supatease still has his trinket ready to go. Pinkrangers trinket coming up in around 20 seconds. And Pugman taking a lot of damage at the moment. Going to use that Demon Soul to empower his dots, get out additional damage. Nessper also using his Adrenaline Rush. They're trying to get something going on to Tony Jr. He doesn't have Shaman available for another 20 seconds. Pinkrangers actually getting locked out. He's going to go for a drink, I think, but they spot it, and Pugman porting back desperately to him. The full fear on a Pinkranger. He does have Vigil up. Tony Jr. taking a lot of damage, though, at the moment. I think Supatease actually should be able to pick him up quite nicely. He's going to have Iron Bark soon. If he's in trouble, he'll just throw that onto him. That is the Iron Bark coming up from Pinkrangers onto Pugman. Uses that Blood Horde to peel off Lossa for a little bit. Lossa taking a little bit of damage. And as dampening stacks higher and higher, like I said, it's going to be hard for these teams to heal through.
I mean, regardless of that full drink, Pinkrangers is now back to 30% health, man. Tony Jr., this team not using all that much to trade. I mean, Nessper just smoke bombed and red buff killing spree, and Tony just walked out of it completely fine. But we're at 19% dampening. Pinkrangers actually pushing in and actually getting bashed by Supatease. Pinkrangers still at low mana here. I mean, as the game goes on and on, this Turbo's actually getting the late game advantage at this point. Pugman just having a hell of a time trying to get these dots rolling onto people, but there's the full kidney shot onto Tony Jr. at this point. He's taking quite a bit of damage, but nothing too significant. This is just yellow buff for now, but Pugman is just being trained relentless by this Turbo, just not letting him get any of that pressure out. But Pinkrangers now has to get a drink. He's at 19% mana here. There's the full blind out onto Supatease. Maybe they want to make something happen. The red buff killing spree going out onto Tony Jr. Supatease going to have to trinket and put an Iron Bark out. Shaman Rage being used on top of it as well, and he's still taking a whole bunch of damage, but that Nature Swiftness is going to top Tony right off. He's going to be completely fine out of that Nature Swiftness, but Pinkrangers, I feel like he needs to get away, but the Stormbolt goes out on him. He can't just yet. Pugman now still taking quite a bit of pressure. The Mass Fight coming out from Lossa as well, trying to prevent that pressure from Pugman, and Nessper and Pugman and Pinkrangers, they're in trouble.
Absolutely. Pinkranger's mana down to 10%. He needs to go for a drink. He absolutely needs to. Lossa pushing in, putting him into a full fear, though. They're making a little bit of a swap on a Nessper. That is the Demon Soul coming up from Pugman. They want to make something happen onto Tony Jr. Supatease mana not particularly great either. Pinkranger's going down for that drink. Lossa immediately heroic leaps and stops that. Well done by him. Pinkranger's did get a little bit of mana there, but really nothing too significant. Supatease also at 20% mana right now. Pinkranger's also going for another drink. They're not going to be able to stop this one. Pugman's going to have to port back, avoid some damage, and Pinkranger's getting a huge dip there, up to 40% mana now. Now Supatease in a lot of trouble. The rallying cry coming out from Lossa. That is Barkskin as well as Ironbark on a Supatease. He has no trinket. The next swap on him could be a nightmare. This is the opportunity they're looking for. They've finally gotten everything out of Supatease. Tony Jr. under a lot of pressure. Lossa under a lot of pressure. Pugman under a lot of pressure. That is the Ironbark from Pinkrangers onto Pugman at the moment. Supatease looking like he's going to try to go for a drink. He clones up the pet. He's going to Shadow Meld, go for that drink, but if Pugman can replay the pet on him, it's going to stop the drink. And now Tony Jr., Supatease is falling further and further behind. Tony Jr. under a lot of pressure. He popped that Shaman. He has full hots. If they can load Supatease up, though, and make a swap onto him, he could be in a lot of trouble. And now finally Pinkrangers has the mana advantage. This RLD Dream Team, or sorry, Magik Men, doing very well as the game goes later and later. Tony Jr.'s hots Tony Jr.'s heals not going to be particularly effective. Pinkrangers needs to make sure he doesn't fall behind, though, because it's going to be a nightmare picking off his team as dampening is so high, and Tony Jr. is going to be able to dispel all of those hots. Tony Jr. getting cheap shot up there, getting that Ironbark from Supatease at the moment. Pugman taking a little bit of damage, but he is fully loaded up with hots. Pinkrangers has his Nature Vigil up. Both healers down to around 5%
Oh my
mana.
gosh.
This game is going to end soon. Pinkrangers trying to go for the drink, but Lossa is going to heroic leap in and stop it. Pugman porting back, gating away from Lossa. Doesn't want to be taking any damage at the moment. Pinkrangers needs to get a drink. Supatease needs to get a drink. If they don't, this game is going to end very, very soon. Almost at 40% dampening. This is the Dark Soul coming up from Pugman. If he can get dots on the entire team, it's going to be so hard for Supatease to heal through with no mana left to him. Finally, he has that Nature's Vigil up. Lossa popping that die by the sword to try to prevent any incoming damage. The full smoke bomb. Kidney shot onto Tony Jr. Master Flight coming out of Lossa trying to prevent some incoming damage. Shaman out of Tony Jr. at the moment. Somehow Supatease is keeping his team alive. As well as Pinkrangers. Nessper in a lot of trouble though. Caught into that bash and making a swap on him. 7% HP, 16% HP, 8% HP, and they're going to kill him. Amazing cap totem coming out of that bash from Tony Jr. They're able to capitalize on that and actually kill him.
Wow!
What a crazy game.
41% dampening, and both of these teams, both Druids, literally tapped on mana, and it all came down to a bash capacitor totem is what ended the game and got that double stun onto Nessper, and that execute coming out. I mean, with catching a rogue without feint, it's a vulnerable target, that is for sure. Let's take a quick look at this replay. Let's take a quick look at Nesper's health as he was the kill target. There was a smoke bomb going out onto Tony. Shaman Rage being forced. Pugman using, or has that Ironbark on him. He's going to be completely fine. Both Druids just completely out of mana and tapped. There's the bash on the Nessper at a half health, and he's going to go into the cap totem out of that, and just Pinkrangers just couldn't keep him up through that damage, and the very first map is going to go to Tony from the Bronx.
Yep. And those enhancement shaman are so tanky. Like, yeah. I don't know, man. After commentating for so long, for
just brewmaster monks.
Yeah, like I was saying, like enhancement shaman are the same as like a tank spec to me. Like they're just brewmaster monks, like you said. Brewmaster monks, they're equivalent to like a blood DK. They slow the pace of the game down so much. It's one of their major strengths. They have so good. Their off heals are so good, pardon me, as well as they're just inherently tanking with that lightning shield glyph and the Shaman. Yeah, makes it really hard for anyone to kill them or their teammates.
I mean, I feel like a lot of really strong compositions have the ability to set up, like have that Hodge, like Horrify setup from Holy Pally God Comp and stuff like that, and having like a short cooldown on that Shaman Rage and pairing that with the short defensive cooldowns of like Ironbark, rotating through those, I feel it is such a nice like combo. And they do it well. But the next map actually chosen by this RLD, they're going to bring it to Blade's Edge Arena. I like this choice coming out from RLD, considering that the kill target was the Warlock. He's going to be able to abuse his port a lot more against this double melee and get away from this double melee with that Z-axis port.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ultimately, he wasn't even the one that died.
Yeah, so. That's true. Oh, man.
Died that last game. They're going to be able to make swaps on a Nessper. They might even make swaps on the Pinkranger. They can pressure Pugman into jumping off and then just swap on the Pinkrangers. It can be very difficult because Pinkrangers won't be able to top off Pugman and Pinkrangers won't be able to top off Pugman. Meanwhile, Pugman will just be sitting down on the ground low. So, I mean, they can. I think if they do it right and they make the right swaps, they can abuse the fact that Pugman is jumping off and he's all by himself.
Yeah. Well, it looks like a team left, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see another team. Do you see another team?
No, I left.
Cool. Leaving. Just making sure. Alright, guys. Sorry about the delay. We're going to jump right back into this next series very, very soon here. Tony actually said Supa needs some water, and then it said ... in-game water. So just give him a few minutes, guys. We'll be ready to go in just one hot minute.
Thought his throat was perched from
all the casting.
Parched from casting and probably yelling in the games.
You know he's screaming right now.
Yeah,
you know,
I think it's important to bring that high level of intensity in games like this where money's on the line.
Yeah. So just so everyone is clear, the prize pool this week is actually 400 doll hairs, 300 for first and 100 for second. So everyone's really going to be competing, let's be honest, for that #1 spot. No one's coming in here to GCD to get second.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of money, $100 per player.
Yeah.
For a little bit of World of Warcraft fun on the weekend. Plus bragging rights that come along with winning something like this.
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, it really is true. We're becoming a staple of sorts. It's really cool that the community has come together and created something this cool, man. I mean, we wouldn't be here today without the support from the community, and so it's gonna take a heartfelt second to say thank you. Thank you so much. Clutter is now laughing at me. Mission accomplished, boys. Did I sound like that penguin from Madagascar? No.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen Madagascar.
I'm a big children's movie buff. Little known fact about me. But here we go. The game has started. The Shroud coming out from Nessper. Stealthing his entire team. Very good move coming out from Nessper. Looks like Pugman is going to be the kill target once again. But the double cheap shot coming out from Nessper into the kidney shot into Tony Jr. and the clone onto Lossa. Just across CC up the yin yang coming out from the opener of this RLD. Ironbark being used by Super right away. He's playing super safe with his team. Full hots onto Tony Jr. He's going to be just fine. And the adrenaline rush is going to fade off of Nessper. And with that adrenaline rush, the offensive pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Jr. Getting blood horde off by Pugman there. Pugman's going to blow his Demon Soul. That is his first Demon Soul. Trying to get some pressure rolling. Supatease is actually going to get kidneyed in the middle of the map. Using his Bark Skin there as well as his Trinket. That was Nesper's killing spree. So Supatease in a little bit of trouble. He's going to have no Bark Skin and Trinket available for the next swap. Pugman has another Demon Soul available. Supatease going to be able to get away using that NS to top off Tony Jr. He is fully hotted. He's not in any danger at the moment, but he's going to be in trouble next time Nessper decides to Shadow Step kidney shot him.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Jr. now taking a bit of pressure, but super scared, man. You could see it in his character. He doesn't have Trinket, NS, or Bark Skin available for the next swap. Ironbark going out onto Pugman as he pushes in. Supa actually getting locked on that clone. He's going to go into bear form right away. He's not messing around here, but Nessper now dipping to 40% health here. Pugman at 50% health here, and the full clone actually lands on Pinkranger. Supatease pushing in and getting offensive, and it's working out so far. Pugman dipping down to 30% health here. The full bash goes out into Pinkrangers. NS actually went off and didn't heal all that much onto Pugman. Full hex onto Pinkrangers out of that, and it's going to force the Trinket into a shockwave. Pugman still dipping lower and lower at 50% health here, and Demon Soul's going to fade. Nessper also dipping down to about 50% health here, and this Turbo is just pushing on the pressure, man. I mean, both of these targets are dipping down slowly, but Nessper does have that yellow buff. I think it's actually going to fade. Oh my gosh, he actually Shadow Step and got the red buff right before getting cloned, and the buff isn't going to fade just yet. Supatease is scared. He's going to press that Ironbark preemptively. He sees this swap coming on. There's the red buff killing spree onto Supatease. Haunt and everything going out. Bash on the Tony Jr. He can't off-heal him at this point. 44% health into the full clone onto Tony Jr. He still can't off-heal Supatease, and Barkskin is going to fade off of Supatease, but he's going to be completely okay and top himself off. But that was a scary swap coming out from Magik Men.
Yeah, using that NS to top himself off. He's going to push in and get aggressive. The bash on the Pinkrangers, if they can get a hex out of that, pardon me, they could make something happen on the Nessper, but Pinkranger's not going to get follow-up CC'd. Going to get that NS off, top Nessper. Nessper using that evasion as well, slowly working through the cooldowns of this RLD. And on a map like this, it looks like both teams are pressured so much more. No real pillars to go to. They're just duking it out in the middle of the bridge. So much damage coming in from both teams. Pugman pushing in, trying to get dots onto Supatease. Pops that Demon Soul, actually gets shoved off the edge by Supatease with that Typhoon. Is just going to port back up. He's loading Supatease up with full dots. Supatease is going to preemptively Ironbark himself, getting hots out on the Tony Jr. as well as himself. And he's going to be completely fine. Because Supatease Ironbarked himself, they're going to swap over onto Tony Jr., who does have to use that Shaman Wall. The Cap Totem coming out on the Nessper from Tony Jr. Well done by him, but ultimately not going to do too much. Supatease actually going in, trying to get some damage out, building up those combo points, but not going to be able to make too much happen. Both teams have stabilized at this point. Pinkranger's trinket coming up in around 3 seconds. Nessper still has his trinket available if they try to make any swap onto him. Supatease has no real cooldowns up for another 50 seconds. Supatease actually deciding to go for a little bit of a drink there. Gets stopped right away. Actually gets caught into the DR kidney shot by Nessper. A little bit of a misplay there with the DR stun, but he does get locked out on that Cyclone, and Supatease in a little bit of trouble. Meanwhile, Pinkranger's getting targeted. Gets away, displaces away, switch immediately onto Pugman, who gets that Ironbark from Pinkrangers to prevent some of that incoming damage. Vigil being popped by Pinkrangers. He wants to top off his team, get out as much healing as possible, throwing out that mana heavy wild growth onto his team, which provides a lot of healing, but it costs a lot of mana. Supatease into the full kidney shot right now, going to use that Barkskin, gonna get away, fully hot himself up, needs to get hots onto Lossa at the same time. But it doesn't. I think a key part of this matchup is going to be them getting actual hexes on the Pinkrangers, but they're doing a great job of stopping it. They need to get the stun hex combo on the Pinkranger, but they've only been able to do it a couple times this game.
Supatease actually ironbarking himself here. Shaman's being forced out of Tony Jr. as well, dipping down to about 30% health here. That was a little scary though, because Nessper did have that red buff up, so I think Supa saw that and was scared for the potential swap onto himself. So just using that ironbark to prevent that swap. But now he doesn't have that ironbark up for 30 more seconds. The triple Shadow Fury going out from Pugman, the bash onto Nessper, but he still has that feint up and running, so he's going to be completely fine. But the mana from this team is actually flipped. Supatease at 35%, Pinkrangers at 56%. So everything's just starting at this point, and the RLD seems like they have the mana advantage at this point, which is really weird. The Ironbark going out onto Pugman as the consistent pressure of this turbo continues. Tony Jr. trying not to push in too far as he is at 50% health. Nature Swiftness coming out from Supatease is going to keep him okay, and both of these teams just trading blow for blow, looking for that opportunity. And as I say that, the kidney shot goes out onto Tony Jr., but Supatease sitting in that bear form, trying to avoid the potential swap over onto himself, and now Nessper has that yellow buff up. He's looking to make it a red buff and make that switch occur, but looks like this turbo is going to jump on to Pinkrangers. Now Pinkrangers is just going to go ahead and trade that up with that Barkskin, but it's going to fade here at this point, and Supatease at the same time is taking a bit of pressure from Nessper. Pinkrangers, though, could be in a little bit of trouble here at 50% health here, but that's the killing spree in the background onto Supatease. He is in bear form. Ironbark going to be used, but that red buff is going to continue, and Supatease might need some peeling or off-healing from Tony Jr. as Nessper continues this damage onto him. But the nice Cyclone, or the Typhoon actually is going to be countered with the Shadow Step back onto him. That was a really nice Shadow Step, but looks like he's going to give up for now, and Supatease is going to be okay for now.
Pinkrangers also got away there. Actually, Lossa doing a great job of muting Pinkranger's bash with the Blade Storm, and Supatease is having a really hard time healing right now. Nessper is playing that Deadly Throw, so he's not really able to get out those Cyclones. He's trying to go for cast, but he just gets Shadow Step kick, he gets Deadly Throw, and he gets interrupted, so it's really hard for him to actually get out those Cyclones. But now Pugman actually forced to use the Blueberry Pet, so he does have that Voidwalker out at the moment. Supatease caught into a kidney shot, though, taking a lot of damage, is ruptured up, and Nessper decides to actually swap onto Tony Jr. Supatease is getting shoved off the side by Pinkrangers. Beautiful Typhoon by him. A little bit of CC coming out from Pinkrangers onto Supatease with that. The full fear, though, coming out from Lossa onto Pinkrangers. Pinkrangers is going to be able to sit that. He still has his trinket ready to go, but that is the triple shockwave. Nessper actually caught into a bash. Pinkrangers immediately trinket that hex, and those are the kind of plays they need. They need to get those hexes, consistent hexes onto Pinkrangers if they want to finish this game. Haunt going out onto Supatease though. They want to swap over onto him, but Supatease loading himself up with full HOTS, sitting back, making it really hard for Nessper to push in and actually connect onto him. And this RLD team is completely on the back foot. Pinkrangers having to jump off the side of the bridge. That was his bark skin. His team getting rotted down though, and Nessper spamming out the feint, trying to prevent some of this incoming damage. Pugman taking a lot of damage at the same time. Ironbark going out from Supatease onto Tony Jr. This RLD is trying to get some pressure rolling onto him, but he still has his Shaman wall available. Both Druids at around 30% mana at the moment, dampening around 20%. Pinkrangers in a little bit of trouble. He's trying to get away, has that Vigil up, has full HOTS on himself, but at this point, with dampening up, it's really hard for him to actually top himself off.
Yeah, yellow buff coming out from Nessper. He's looking to make something happen. Supatease's mana is starting to suffer here at 23%. It just feels like a Pinkrangers now at 30%. Supatease actually going to go ahead and trinket and displace to get away. But there's the full bash out onto Pinkrangers from Supatease. Going to clone him up. Nessper put into that shockwave, dipping down to 50% health here. Cloak of Shadows is going to be used, and he's going to vanish as well to avoid that swap. This is red buff coming out from Nessper, but Pinkrangers is still in CC, and Nessper could be in trouble. Whoa, that Shadow step back onto the bridge, juked out both of these melee, and Nesper's going to be okay because of that. That was a clutch move coming out from him, but is it going to be enough? And the red buff actually is going to fade off of Nessper, so that was a big deal. The kidney shot going out onto Supatease in human form. He's not going to press any buttons just yet. Mass spell effect coming out from Lossa, preventing that damage. Nessper actually falling off. Now Pinkranger could be in a bit of trouble as both of these melee are connecting to him once again.
Yeah, he's going to displace away, going to get away, but Tony Jr. and Lossa going to reconnect onto him. He's in a lot of trouble having to use that bark skin. He's in bear form at the moment, caught into a full shockwave. Pugman pulling back. They need to get some peels out onto him. Supatease caught into a full kidney shot at the moment, though. The bark skin is going to be popped by him. Die by the sword also coming out from Lossa, trying to prevent the bashes, I think, from Pinkrangers. Pinkrangers having a really hard time topping off his team as Tony Jr. is relentlessly training him down and purging him. Supatease under a little bit of pressure, though, at the moment, getting garroted in bear form. He has full HOTS on himself, but is it going to be enough? This is the killing spree coming out of Nessper. Supatease getting the rallying cry from Lossa. Pugman in a lot of trouble though, having to use that in rage or use that regeneration. The bomb coming out from Nessper though. Could this be the end of Supatease? Rallying cry is going to fade. He catches a huge NS. He might be able to survive because of that. He's going to knock off Pinkrangers. Didn't get Nessper away from him. Using that dash, trying to get away. Using the tranquility and rage regeneration coming out of Lossa, who's also targeting down. Supatease is going to be able to stabilize a little bit using that tranquility there. The shockwave going out onto Pugman as well as Nessper. Pugman taking a lot of damage. If they can get CC onto Pinkrangers, it could be big trouble for Pugman. Nessper getting swapped down to 20% HP. The bash onto Pinkrangers, the full cycle, and now Nessper desperately trying to get away, spamming that feint, running away as much as he can, down to 20% HP, but they're not going to chase him this time. But Tony Jr. jumps off, looking to get the kill. 19% HP. If Lossa can connect on him, he's going to be able to execute him. The vanish coming out, though, the cheap shot on the Supatease, the cheap shot onto Lossa. Nessper doing everything he can to survive. He's going to live the full blind onto Lossa. Now they're trying to turn it around onto Supatease. Nessper blows his adrenaline rush. This is Demon Soul as well from Pugman, so this RLD has a lot of offensive cooldowns up. They might be able to make something happen onto Tony Jr. Tony Jr. getting that Ironbark from Supatease, and Pinkranger is able to really top off his team. Pugman still taking a little bit of damage. Supatease getting fully dotted up by Pugman. He could be a swap to here. Gets kidney shot, Shadow Step kidney shot by Nessper. That is the red buff killing spree. Supatease immediately get a trinket and bark skin. He has no Ironbark available. He's in a little bit of trouble now. Going to displace away. Nessper doesn't have really any way to really connect to him. Pinkranger's getting chunked down though by Lossa at the same time, down to 30% HP. So much pressure coming out of both teams, 40% dampening. This is when the game ended last time, and we could see a repeat. Nature's Vigil up for Pinkrangers, trying to empower his HOTS, but is it going to be enough this deep into dampening? Supatease running in, bashing Pinkrangers into the full cycle. Nessper does have that evasion up at the moment. Lossa using that die by the sword. Both teams just doing anything they can to live. The full shockwave coming out. Pinkrangers getting swapped down to onto Lossa. Pinkrangers doing an excellent job trying to Typhoon Lossa away, but it's not going to be enough. And Pinkrangerz is going to get executed, and Lossa is going to be able to finish him off. Supatease doing a great job that game with the bash clones on the Pinkrangers at clutch times, and that's going to be 2-0 for Tony from the Bronx.
Wow, that was a fantastic series, though. I feel like a 2-0 doesn't really necessarily give Magik Men the credit they deserve because they played a great series. But a quick 2-0, actually that wasn't quick at all. That was both 40% dampening coming out from Tony from the Bronx, and they will advance, and Magik Men is going to dip down to the lower bracket. But I want to give a shout out to Tony from the Bronx and Magik Men, both of them coming out and competing. They did a great job. And